Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today, we have a new devblog that was released the day of recording. And there's a couple of changes that, of course, absolutely nobody saw coming. Now, if you can't sense that is extreme sarcasm from me. So, there's a couple of big changes to Spanish cruisers and to the upcoming Soviet destroyers, but also some buffs to some very much anticipated ships like the West Virginia 44 that I'm now getting really excited about after just taking a quick peruse of this devblog. So link to this will be in the description down below if you want to follow along as I read aloud. If you do find yourself enjoying this video, please make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Helps out on the YouTube side of things, of course, tremendously, and finessing the algorithm is like 80% of YouTube nowadays. Alright. So again, this is in the description down below if you want to check this out for yourself, which I, of course, encourage you to do so. I will throw up any relevant images or artwork as we go through it. Alright, so they say in this devblog, changes to test ships, close test 12.4. Based on testing results, we're applying changes to Asturias, Catalunya. By the way, again, I'm going to murder these names, so I do apologize in advance. Andalusia, Castilla, Schill, Novosibirsk, Halford, West Virginia 44, Devastation, Jager, Mouvinet, Storod, Grom, Split, S1, L20, and K1, as well as to the unique upgrades for Petro and Manfred von Richthofen. Alright, we've removed the bonuses to AP shell penetration and damage when using the burst fire on Spanish cruisers, as well as reduced its reload time. Thanks to this, players will be able to deal damage more evenly throughout the battle. They just kind of dump right on in here, huh? They don't put the subtitles. So that's, of course, in regards to Spanish cruisers. So in the detailed drop-down menu, they note for the tier 7 to 10 Spanish cruisers, so the higher tier ones, the burst fire bonus to AP shell penetration and damage have been removed. And again, who didn't see this coming, these burst fire modes are extremely powerful. Of course, if you've been playing at higher tier for some time, you've probably come under the attention of super ships that have these burst fire modes. In fact, in I think it was 2 or 3 seasons ago, when super ships were allowed into CBs, the burst fire modes were ridiculously powerful because of the increased penetration and increased damage that they would often give to the shells. And I know this game's kind of more arcadey, it is more arcadey than other naval combat simulators, quote unquote, but I think it's kind of silly that your ship having an autoloader somehow gives it increased penetration to the shells, so yeah. Now, they did also drastically reduce the cooldown time for these burst fire modes, especially from tier 7 and tier 8. So the Asturias, which is the tier 7, the burst fire cooldown time is now 27 seconds. And the Catalunya, the burst fire cooldown time is 25 seconds. The Andalusia, the tier 9, 35 to 31.5 seconds. The Castilla is 30 to 28.5 seconds. So about a 2 to 3 second decrease on the tier 9 and the tier 10, while almost a full 20 second decrease on the tier 8 and the tier 7. Now, that I can see, because I mean, like 27 seconds on a cruiser, that is still like, of course, battleship load time on the main battery guns. On a cruiser, that's an eternity, absolutely. So given that they don't get the improved penetration and damage anymore, I think that's pretty fair. Of course, I haven't played these ships. I'm not a super tester. I'm not a CC. So I don't know exactly how these ships perform in game at the moment. But again, given that you're losing the improved penetration and damage, seems pretty fair at the moment. I do kind of wish they could get these guys to work without the burst fire mode, because it's really gimmicky, and as we've talked about here on the channel before, gimmicks eventually get out-gimmicked, of course. Now, on the same note, the idea of, taking these cruisers, which are pretty darn well armored, and getting in close, getting to the side of an enemy, cruiser, and, just mag dumping into them, essentially, that does sound pretty fun. Because, you can drive by them like you can with battleships, but with cruisers. So we'll see how that goes, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about these guys in the future. Again, they do seem like they are going to be more heavy, brawly type cruisers, so I am still very much anticipating them quite hotly. Alright, so the Shields is Tier 8 German cruiser. The main battery reload time has been increased to 16.5 to 18.1 seconds. It's a pretty hard bonk there from the Nerf bat to the Shield. The Novosibirsk is Super Petropavlovsk. So the AP shell fuse delay has been reduced. Now, the Novosibirsk, what's really weird about this is that this is basically a big Petropavlovsk that has like a 20-second reload on the guns. And they're not massive cruiser guns, cruiser almost battleship guns. They're run-of-the-mill. I believe they're 240s. I'll correct myself on screen here if that's incorrect. But they have a 20-second reload. And now they're delaying the fuse even more, which is really weird because I'm assuming it had the AP values that most Soviet ships do, where they actually have a really short fuse time. What normally happens with Soviet AP is that the penetration values are way up there, but the fuse time is very short. So they pin armor quite hard, but since the fuse is so short, they tend to detonate inside the target versus like the French AP that zips right through whatever it has because it has the, a more normal fuse time. So essentially, Soviet AP was kind of like Hypersap, where it would pin but pretty much always detonate on the inside of the ship versus overpinning it, and they are backing it off even more now with the fuse delay. So yeah, this is weird. Again, I haven't played this ship, but this ship just seems to be such a conundrum. I'm really interested to see what this ship is going to be like once it gets released. I haven't even seen one in game, so I haven't been shot at by the thing yet, so I don't know. Speaking of super ships, the Devastation, which is a Mega Conqueror, her Sigma has been reduced from 1.8 to 1.7. Again, surprise, Mega Conqueror, HE spamming battleship with 16 guns. Yeah, big surprise, it's getting its Sigma reduced. So the Halford, this is the Tier 9 American DD with a catapult plane that you can control. It's a hybrid DD. So, added the engine cooling consumable to the attack fighter squadron, so the planes have the engine boost. And the detectability range has been reduced from 7.9 to 7.5 by sea. So it's got a detection buff, and the planes now have the engine boost. Well, it's not really an engine boost. It's basically a timer that allows you to have your engine speed up to maximum for a longer period of time than you normally would. Alright, so a big up for me in this devblog is these buffs to West Virginia 44. So, they are reducing the main battery firing range from 17.5 to 17.1 kilometers, but the reload time is being reduced from 30 to 27 seconds, and the Sigma is getting increased from 1.7 to 1.8. Oh yeah. And keep in mind, this thing has 16-inch guns at Tier 7. Now, the shells have more arcing ballistics, so they aren't going to be as flat, especially at range. The main battery shell penetration has been reduced, so again, at range, that's going to decrease the penetrating ability of the shell. And the secondary guns, y'all, the main battery reload time has been reduced. I'm sorry, the secondary battery reload time has been reduced from 4 to 2.5 seconds. Glorious, glorious, glorious. But it gets better, y'all. The detectability range by sea has been reduced from 15.2 to 14 kilometers base. So, again, and you might think, oh my god, it must be, that must be it. No, it gets better. The acceleration parameters have been changed more to Vermont, to basically where it will reach its top speed quite fast. And you can mount the propulsion mod on top of that. And the repair party is now more similar to Vermont as well. And now she gets DFAA. And this is a little blurb they have here at the bottom. The purposes of these changes is to emphasize West Virginia 44's role as a close combat brawler and distance its gameplay from the Colorado. To achieve this, her concealment, maneuverability, and survivability have been improved, as well as the air defense and secondary battery firing rate. At the same time, the effectiveness of the main battery at long distance was decreased, reducing the firing range and changing the parameters of ballistics and armor penetration. So guys, they did it. They're doing it. We're finally getting like the Doom Turtle battleship at tier 7 that I've been asking for so long. Now, most recently I brought this up with Tennessee. I wanted Tennessee to basically be a Doom Turtle. Well, it's this big, slow, hulking battleship with, improved heal, but great secondaries and great guns at close range. And that's what we're getting here with West Virginia 44. But instead of having the 14-inch guns of the Tennessee, she has 16-inch guns. And keep in mind, too, with the way matchmaking is going right now, Tier 9 ships are mostly in Tier 10 and Super Ship games, which means Tier 7 ships are either top tier or mid-tier most of the cases now, at least from my experiences. So that means we have a brawling battleship with 16-inch guns that will be able to overmatch pretty much most of what it sees, especially when it's top tier, that has the American secondaries with a 2.5-second reload time and has the Vermont acceleration deceleration, which means it's going to be very, very good at close range engagements. Now, we just have to hope it stays like this until she gets released. I am very pleased to be seeing this coming out of the West Virginia 44. And Tier 7 is still, especially when it's top tier, still a tier where you have plenty of close quarters engagement. So I'm very excited to see how this ship comes out. Alright, so moving right along, we have the Jager, which is the Tier 9 European destroyer, Yugoslavian destroyer. And they nerfed her torpedoes from 10,700 to 7,500 maximum damage. Again, haven't played against this ship. It doesn't really seem like that great of a boat at Tier 9. It's heavily torpedo focused, and they just, nerfed the torpedoes. So, yeah. The European destroyer, the Movenet, is Tier 5 tech line European DD of the new branch. So, torpedo range increased from 6 to 7 kilometers, but they also increased her air detect from 2.6 to 2.7. Stored, Tier 6 Pan-Euro DD. Again, torpedo buff from 6 to 7.5 kilometers. Grom, the Tier 7 Pan-Euro tech line DD. Torpedo range increased 6 to 7.5 kilometers again. And the C detect went up from 7 to 7.2. Again, split, the Tier 8 detectable range by C reduced from 8.9 to 8.5. Okay, now Soviet submarines. So they made a lot of changes to these guys. So they summarize it here as this. For update 12.4, we made a large number of changes to the characteristics of Soviet submarines. Despite the extensive list of changes, the overall effectiveness of these submarines will increase by about 10%. We expect that this will allow them to reach the same level of combat effectiveness as the submarines of other nations. So the Soviet subs, even though they were, and they are, incredibly fast, apparently their torpedoes kind of sucked, at least in Wargaming's eyes. So across the board, their damage was increased, the flood chance was increased, the torpedo speed was increased, and the for both the homing and the dummy unguided torpedoes. And their visibility of the torpedoes was reduced, and the range of the homing torpedoes was increased. So just to give you an idea of like the percentages that would change here, I'll actually take a screenshot and I'll throw it up on screen right here. So if you want to pause the video and take a look at that, but just basically huge buffs to the Soviet subs across the board for now. Who knows? It might be too much of a buff. They might get the bunk bat a little while later. They are still very much in testing. So, do take this information with a grain of either salt or hope, depending upon what side of the aisle you're on regarding Soviet subs. Alright, so the Petropavlov's current unique upgrades getting a buff too. The AP shell damage bonus is being increased from 7.5 to 10%. And you're getting a bigger buff to the dispersion of the main battery shells from 7 to 10% as well. So we might be getting like old Petropavlovsk here that could accurately hit crap beyond 13 kilometers. So, now the Richthofen's unique upgrade apparently is getting completely reworked. The concept of this upgrade has been changed. Now it will strengthen and make torpedo bombers more convenient to use, which will allow them to be used even more effectively against maneuverable targets, DDs and light cruisers. New upgrade features: increase torpedo bomber HP by 10%, increase maximum torpedo damage by 20%, dang. Reduce torpedo arming distance by 10%, that's pretty nice. So that sounds pretty nice if you like the Richthofen's torpedo bombers, although the Richthofen I mean, yeah, they're pretty good, and they are a source of good, consistent damage. So I could see going with this. Again, I'm not a CV main by any stretch of the imagination here, but yeah. All right, all in all, what I really like about this dev blog is West Virginia becoming a Doom Turtle. Love that. The Spanish destroyers. Again, I want to hear more. I like that they're making the auto-loading feature, whatever you want to call it, the alternative firing mode, more normalized. You know, it's not super gimmicky with the increased damage and penetration of the shells. Now it's just like, yeah, they have auto-loaders. Like, you know, something you could reasonably buy that is a realistic thing, even though they didn't have auto-loaders in real life, but that's besides the point. Soviet submarines, I thought they were going to overperform. Apparently they're underperforming. So, yeah, I'm interested to see where they go with that. If they're going to get nerfed again or if they're going to get another buff. So, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. I will be live streaming here on the channel tonight from 5 p.m. U.S. Central Time to around 8 or 9 p.m. U.S. Central Time, so make sure to come out for that. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment. Again, tell me what you think about these changes in the comments down below. Again, this is all in testing. It could very well change next week for all we know. Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, a wonderful weekend if you don't hear from me before then. And I hope to catch you guys in the next one.